His wife called and said, "He's great, and he changed so much." Everybody was happy, his kids, his wife, everybody. He was incredible. He kicked the contractor's ass, and he watched him like a hawk. After Stan finished the course, they gave him an award and had a dinner in his honor. Stan was a big hero. After that, Stan went back to Wall Street, and he started to fail. When he told me he was failing, I said, "Stan, you are doing the wrong thing." He said, "I can't help it. I have to do it for my father." I said, "You are doing the wrong thing. You've got to go into construction, renovation, or golf course building. You've got to do it. You'll be great at it. You'll do well." He said, "I can't do it." He became totally miserable. But finally, about 3 years ago, he got wise and quit his Wall Street job to go into construction. Now he is doing phenomenally well because he loves his job. He's not making the same money he would have made if he were a Wall Street killer, but he is happy, and he loves what he does, and he loves getting up in the morning. And he now sees himself as a winner. When I see him now, he's always beaming and looking healthy. He has a new lease on life and has become a different person because he had the guts to go against tradition, take control of his life, and change. So if your life is not what you want it to be, don't be afraid to ask yourself whether you are doing what you want and what is right for you. No matter how old you are, measure yourself against your own feelings, ambitions, and goals, not those of others. That might mean standing up to friends, family, and colleagues who think they know what's best for you. Plug into your own electricity. It might flow better through another socket. Grace under pressure. Another key to your success will be how well you deal with pressure. If you want to be successful at anything in life, you have to be able to handle pressure. Whether you're buying or building real estate, starting your own company, or climbing your way up the corporate ladder, you need to deal with a large amount of pressure. Successful Wall Street wheeler-dealers, doctors, lawyers, athletes, politicians, and entertainers live a life filled with pressure. How do they do it? How do they live happy and successful lives when there is so much pressure? A lot of times, stress has more to do with focusing on what you love than with anything else. I've learned that it is important to focus on the solution, not the problem. If you put all your energy into the problem, how much passion do you have left for finding a solution? I have known developers who get caught up in lengthy discussions with everybody involved when they encounter something unexpected, such as zoning restrictions, code violations, too much groundwater, or missing materials. They spend too much time discussing what caused the problem and who is to blame. Then they start imagining the worst. The job will be late. They will be way over budget. The banks will pull the financing, or the city will pull the permits. That energy would be better spent on finding a solution. When I started my career in real estate, I had a problem. I had no money to invest in the properties I wanted, but I didn't focus on it and let it stop me. I focused all my attention on buying properties without money. My advice is to acknowledge the problem and then move on to a more positive level. If we were to say to ourselves, "I'm so unfocused," instead of, "I'm so stressed out," I think we could clear things up more quickly. The more focused I am on doing things I love, the less stress I experience. But the fact is, not everybody is cut out to be successful. I want to tell you about the negatives of business as well as the positives. I want to talk about the fact that most people are not cut out to deal with the high stress level of being a great success. I don't know why, but some people are just not able to do it. I've seen so many people who are geniuses. They have high IQs. They had all A's in college. They had all A's in high school. They've gone to the best schools, Harvard, Wharton, but they can't handle pressure. I have gotten to a point where I know a lot of smart people, but I do not know a lot of people who can handle pressure. One of the things I love about sports is you see in a very small period of time whether an athlete folds or thrives under pressure. Most of them fold, but there are some great athletes that do better under pressure. Look at Tiger Woods, Derek Jeter, or Tom Brady. They all seem to thrive under pressure. In sports, you can find this out quickly, whereas in the business world, it may take 10 or 15 years to know whether you can handle pressure. But I think it's vital that you know whether you can withstand pressure. If you can't, there's nothing wrong with that. It's great to have a job you like, get married, raise some kids, and live a happy life. That in itself is a form of success, and is a good thing, though it wouldn't be for me. I have had friends, many friends, who went to the Wharton School with me, who were very smart. By the way, I was actually a good student. Believe it or not, I was very good at math and science. A lot of people find it hard to believe I was a good student, because they don't see that part of my personality. They think I am smart, but they do not see how I could sit down and study. But I did. I've had some very smart friends, who I have kept in touch with. One person in particular was a total genius, and he never made it. He has a nice job working for an accounting firm, but he went out recently to buy a house, and he was a basket case. He called me and asked, "Do you think I'm making a mistake? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so nervous. I'm buying a house. I mean, what do I do? Do I borrow?" He was devastated over the fact that he was buying a house. After he bought the house, this brilliant guy called me and said, "Donald, I bought a house. Do you think I did the right thing? I have a mortgage. Oh, my God, will it be all right?" Here's a guy with a 180 IQ, and he cannot sleep, and he cannot have sex with his wife because he is so stressed. I said, "What's the purpose of buying a house if you can't sleep with your wife? What kind of a house is this?" He's a guy who advises people about how to make money. He is a very successful accounting-type person and a total genius. But when it comes to spending his own money, he's a basket case. After about 10 calls from him, I told him, "Jim, you are so lucky you have a good job, because you could never, ever work for yourself." He was insulted. It's true, but he was insulted nonetheless. I said, "You couldn't do it because you can't handle the pressure." I've been through a lot. I've had great success. I've also had some really tough times, like when the real estate market collapsed in the early 90s. I owed many billions of dollars, and the banks were after my ass. It was not exactly fun. I had every major bank after me. Everybody in my industry was in big trouble. I had some friends and some enemies in the business who I thought were really tough guys, but most of them could not handle the bad times like they handled the good times. Most of them went out of business. All my friends were going bankrupt, and I was very close. But I never went bankrupt. Even though it was not much fun, and I never want to go through it again. In some ways, it wasn't so bad. I slept very well, and I managed to keep my faculties. It is not that I trained for it. I didn't train for it. But that awful experience taught me that I can handle pressure. Most people crawled into a corner, put their fingers in their mouths, and said, "Mommy, Mommy, take me home." I learned that I can handle pressure. I did not back down under pressure. I turned it back on the banks and let them accept some of the blame. I figured it was the bank's problem, not mine. What the hell did I care? I actually told one bank, "I told you you shouldn't have loaned me that money. I told you that goddamn deal was no good. You knew you were charging me too much interest." I was just kidding. But maybe not. That's what I had to say. It was not great, but it was better than dropping to my knees like other people did. Banks are afraid of getting sued. That is why I say there are ways of getting through problems. But you have to love what you do, and you have to be able to deal with pressure. Yes, I never went bankrupt, but I was in deep, deep trouble. Fortunately, I had great relationships with banks. In the 1980s, I treated my banks well, and so in the 1990s, they did not want to hurt me. They wanted to kill me in some ways, because that's what banks do when you don't pay them. But they did not want to do to me what they did to many other people. There's an old saying, be careful who you step on going up, because you meet the same people coming down. It's true. I knew a man in the real estate business whose name I will not mention. He was a pretty well-known guy. He was a very arrogant guy. He built buildings like I did, and he always looked down on the bankers. He treated them very, very badly. Sometimes he would talk to their wives at dinners and say, I can't believe your husband's a banker. Look at all the money I'm making, and he's not. He would intentionally make them feel bad. I had the opposite approach to bankers. I would say, you're the greatest. Even if I was making a fortune and they weren't, I would say, you're the greatest. Why hurt these people? The man went on like that for 6 or 7 years. He borrowed a lot of money, and he built a lot of buildings. When the real estate market crashed, the banks came down hard on him, much harder than they came down on me. They came down really hard on him because he was an arrogant asshole. One of the bankers told me that this arrogant, tough, mean, nasty guy dropped to his knees, begged them not to foreclose on personal guarantees, and cried like a baby. He cried on his knees. So you know what they did? They put him right out of business. I have not heard from that guy since. Do what feels good. In the early 90s, I was in a ton of debt. I had gone from a super genius to a moron overnight. One night, I went into the conference room where my accountants were still working, and the mood was definitely stressful because everyone was focused on unpleasant things. I decided we needed to change the focus to things that were fun. So I started describing to everyone all of my plans for future projects and developments, and how fantastic they were going to be. I went into detail about them, painting a vivid picture of success. My accountants all acknowledged